Here we are again for another episode, special.
Out of the ordinary.
Out of the flow of what we usually do. It's Easter episode.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We said we should have had like our Cadbury cream eggs sitting here. Should have had our bunny teeth and bunny ears on, but
I make a mess with this.
That's not what Easter's about.
Just run down your arm.
Man, that's not what Easter's about. Anyways.
It's true though.
It is true.
It's not what it's about.
Episode 48.
But the Cadbury eggs do taste good.
Man, Cadbury eggs are amazing. Hey, if you're watching, maybe just give a little comment. Yay, thumbs up or thumbs down for Cadbury cream eggs.
Yeah.
I give them 2.
Yeah,
I give them 2 all day long. If I had 3, I'd give them 3.
Yeah.
But some people, I could imagine them finding it kind of gross.
Yeah.
It's one of those things I feel like you either love or you hate. There's no middle ground. And they are pretty strong. Like they're pretty.
I've not had one in a while.
I haven't either, but when you put that and you bite that, it's just like kind of overwhelming in your mouth and just, I don't know, whatever, regardless.
Like eating a raw egg.
Now I'm not going to be able to ever eat one again. Thank you. I appreciate that.
No, the thumbs just went right down. Yeah.
Anyways, episode 48 today. And like I said, we're moving away from our flow of our usual journey through the Bible. And we go to what I consider
we skip forward a little bit.
We skipped forward a whole lot. And then now next week we're going to come back. We're going to come back and catch up. But it was Easter. We had to jump ship and go to Easter, but to me, if we're journeying through the Bible, this is easily the most or the top 2 most important places in the Bible.
We've talked about how everything is pointing to
Jesus. So it was good. It was good to take a Sunday to really just focus on that and remind ourselves that yes, this is the whole point of the Bible, pointing everything to Jesus. So it was a really great Sunday.
And let me say, it was awesome to be actually in the sanctuary together on Easter.
For an Easter.
Oh my goodness.
It was good. It was good. It was good to see a lot of faces come back, and still expecting to see some other faces coming back in the coming weeks. So it's just a really good service all the way around. We really hope that you had a great Easter as well with your church family and with your family as well. And as always, we always put the invitation out there. If you are not part of a church body of believers, a family, we find that so highly important and crucial and critical that if you aren't, come try New Heights out. And if it's not for you, we'd love to point you in a direction of a good Bible-believing church here in the Connersville, Fayette County area. That being said, let's just freestyle a little bit on Easter. Well, first, before we get to that, we've talked freestyle on Easter, all right? Because
we so 80s right now.
Well, okay. It's not like our usual episode where we got 3 points, but we'll talk about some good stuff that we talked about in the sermon and pull that out. But before we've talked about Cadbury eggs. Is that your favorite Easter candy?
No.
Okay, what's your favorite Easter candy? And please don't tell me what I think is about to come out of your mouth.
Reese eggs.
Okay, that's good. I thought you were going to tell me Peeps, and I was going to have to punch you.
No. I mean, I'll eat them, but
gross.
I like them stale better. Like
I didn't know.
Set.
I like them in a trash can better.
They're really fun to put in the microwave. Have you ever tried that?
I have.
They get like this big.
I bet they do.
It's fun.
Or a campfire.
And then they get crispy. So
no.
they're like toasted marshmallow.
There's something about them that just got this weird medicine-y taste to it.
Yeah.
It's just odd. So Reese eggs for you.
Reese eggs, yeah.
Man, I'm trying to think of what my favorite Easter candy would be. Really don't know. Any? Except for Peeps? Yeah, I think that's
all of the above.
I don't know. I'm not a huge I've got to have candy, got to have Easter candy. But how about this?
I don't think I got a lot of Easter candy. We didn't buy a lot of it this year.
No.
We bought some, but we gave it to
In fact,
kids.
Braden was really disappointed. He was shaming us for 3 days. And he's like, yeah, he goes, we didn't do an Easter egg hunt at our house, And then we were driving down the road one day and there was a family over there. It was in the middle of the week and they were doing an Easter egg hunt. I was like, well, I guess they didn't get together on Sunday. And Braden's like, well, they better not come over to our house because I was just like, wow. He is laying it on thick right now.
Yeah.
So what Easter food?
Smallest violin playing for him.
Yeah, sorry, buddy. I mean, whatever. He didn't get plenty of candy and other stuff, but favorite Easter food that you would eat in a meal? What's traditionally the thing, or are you totally non-traditional with Easter?
Yeah, we're usually non-traditional. I mean, there's usually ham involved, I guess. And
which is odd to me, by the way. I was just thinking.
Right, because
it originally is off of the Jewish holiday of Passover.
Maybe they were like, hey,
we're going
conquered
full
all.
ham on this
Right.
thing. I don't really know. Totally rebelling against it.
Yeah, I don't know.
So yeah, ham traditionally is
Thinking that was a Gentile tradition.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Easter's kind of odd. Like, I don't know if there's anything super traditional. Like, we didn't even really have like a technically an Easter lunch or dinner.
Yeah.
We actually think we grilled out. We grilled out hamburgers and hot
It
dogs.
was a nice day for that.
It was a great day for it.
Yeah.
But anyways, moving on. So what we did with our Easter time here, our Easter service and celebration, was to do a little bit something different. I mean, it's great to preach the traditional, texts of the resurrection story, but like everybody's heard that. So I'm like, let's do something a little different. One of my friends here in town.
And we did talk about the traditional text.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I was going to get to that.
We didn't just cut that out. Sorry.
No, we're not talking about that this year. We did. It was very heavy on that, but just in a different perspective and a different light.
Right.
I had a friend here in town, another pastor friend, who for Christmas did something he called the characters of Christmas. And so I got to thinking as we were moving towards Easter, what I want to do for Easter. I was like, I want to take that stance with Easter because it really blew my mind a lot more than I thought it would.
Yeah.
Like rereading kind of Easter story, but really from the perspective of all of these characters, and there are so many characters, and how they all kind of come together and bump up against one another. And really probably in Jesus' day, when this is happening in real time, Easter week and crucifixion and resurrection, these guys don't even pay a lick of attention to each other, but they're massive players in a grand story without their even knowing it. And like I said, there are so many characters that we could talk about, and like it would take weeks to preach through all the characters, but we had one. So my infinite wisdom, I decided and chose to do 5 people. Like that makes really great sense, Ryan.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
It made
go big or go home.
Go big or go home. Yeah, right. This is Easter. We're not playing.
This is Easter. We fed you breakfast. You're good for a while.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Right. We can go way past lunch. Anyways, so we did 5 characters, and we talked about. Do you remember the 5 characters we talked about?
Let me see if I was listening.
Yes.
I was listening.
Yes, you were.
Let me see if I can remember.
But now it's been almost a week.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I've been looking at Gideon.
Yeah.
Y'all. Excuse me. So we have. I'm wheezing like crazy.
I know. We got wheezy over here.
So if you hear that, yeah. So we have Judas. Had Nicodemus.
Yep.
Joseph.
Of Arimathea. Yep. 3.
Who else did we talk about?
Barabbas.
Yeah. I always forget him in the scheme of things, but yeah.
Which is why we talked about him.
Right.
Which is why we talked about him. And the last group of ladies, women at the tomb.
That's kind of a trick question. You actually had a few there.
Oh, I did. But I said there were 5 of them specifically named, but I only talked about Mary 2 Magdalene. Of them.
Yeah.
Mary Magdalene and Joanna, the wife of Chusa. Anyways, so we talked through all of these characters, but we actually broke it up into a couple different, too. We talked about Judas and Barabbas and said that they were the scoundrels of Easter.
Yes.
I love that word, by the way. Scoundrel. You're a little scoundrel.
And when, as you were talking about through them, how much of them we see in ourselves, Yeah,
we never do that, do we, with the Easter story? We're like, ooh, jeer, Judas. And like, Barabbas is just a weird character because he just gets caught up in it. Like,
you don't really see a lot about Barabbas.
It seems like he plays no active part in it. He doesn't choose to be there. He's just swept up in this tornado of redemption.
And as far as a prisoner is concerned, he's in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, exactly.
Had it been anybody else there.
Yeah, so let's just talk about those 2 guys for a moment. Judas, Barabbas, scoundrels. And again, this could include people like Herod,
right?
People like Pontius Pilate, people like the Pharisees and the other religious leaders. There's a lot of scoundrels. And like you said, great point. That's what I kind of took away as I look at it is Judas. And then you start understanding about Judas and what really motivated Judas and what really caused Judas to betray Jesus. It was, in some ways, a lot less, but a lot more sinister than we usually give it credit for. And then we start to look and we're like, oh boy. So like, what do you take away? Let's just think of those 2 guys, and maybe you just pick like one little thing from each of those guys, or one big thing that stands out from those 2 guys that you really is kind of the takeaway for you about Judas and Barabbas.
As far as Judas goes, you think about how disenfranchised he was, about Jesus not coming the way he thought the Messiah was going to come.
Yeah, which was a big struggle for a lot of people.
It was.
And even I would say, here's the thing too, we always separate Judas like he's the worst of the disciples.
But they were all feeling that.
That. Like, you're not doing what we want, Jesus. Yeah. Not only that, like, one thing I pulled out was Judas was, for all intents and purposes, the treasurer of the disciple gang.
Right.
So they entrusted him with that. That's a high level of trust, by the way. And when Mary anoints Jesus and dumps all that perfume out on him, Judas is the one who pipes up. But there's a sense that the rest of the disciples are thinking the same thing.
They were murmuring together.
You've wasted all of this year's worth of pay, dumping it on a guy.
He was just the one that was gutsy enough to make the
move. Yeah. So anyways, back to your reflection on Judas. He's disenfranchised. He seems to be
I think sometimes we get disenfranchised with the way God works in our lives, don't we? Like we want God to move, and we have this idea of how he's going to move and how he's going to work in our lives.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always happen that way. And I think sometimes I
would say rarely.
Well, rarely
it works out the way that we think it's going to or want it to.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's a great point about Judas. Is he from the very beginning seems to be an outsider just by nature. And something I didn't say in the sermon is very interesting. The name, and usually when you say like the last name, it just means that he was the son of someone. In Judas's case, it wasn't. He was Judas Iscariot. That wasn't his last name. It identified where he was from. They suspected he was from a town not from Galilee. It was called Kerioth. You remember all the disciples, all the other 11 disciples come from one region, Galilee, around Capernaum, Bethsaida, that whole area. Judas didn't come from there. He came from down south. So he was the outsider from the very beginning. It's just like, if you look at, Judas doesn't say a lot. There's not a lot pointed at Judas, and every time it is, it's not good. But there are some things that we can draw about Judas that just help us to know, like, this guy was on a bad path all the way along.
Yeah.
And so, he's naturally an outsider. He's disenfranchised. And I think it's so important what you say is we have a tendency, and so many people have a tendency to be disenfranchised when it comes to the things of God. Mm-hmm. Well, God, you didn't do this. Or God, you didn't step up there. Or God, you didn't answer that prayer there. God, you didn't act there. And then what happens is exact same thing happens to Judas. You just slowly begin to turn.
Yeah.
And I loved what I think it was Chuck Swindoll. It was his line is we look at Judas and we think that it was just one moment he made this decision to betray Jesus. He spent that whole 3 years, I feel like, plotting that and being driven to that point. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens over time, slowly but surely.
And by the time he gets to that point, the offer of 30.
He's too deep. He's too deep in.
Yeah.
It says at the Passover meal when they're in the upper room that Satan had entered him. So, but by the way, when that line is said about you, you're a goner.
Yeah,
but the interesting thing about this is, and I really truly do believe this, as I say that, you're a goner. I always like to do this. We've got Judas, but I think like the pairing to Judas is someone like Peter. Because didn't Peter really mess up bad?
Royally. And Jesus told him that.
He did. He didn't mess. He said, "You're going to mess up." But could Peter have taken the very same path that Judas did? Because we know how Judas' story ends. Yeah. He is so overcome by grief and shame that he kills himself.
Yeah.
Peter could have taken the same path. But we see in Peter what we don't get to see in Judas. And it's really sad, by the way, Judas' story. He never makes it to Resurrection Sunday. And I think also what's very sad about Judas' story, I think is a dig at religious establishment. Is the one place that he went that he should have found some sort of relief and some sort of encouragement.
He was turned away.
He's turned away. Yeah. And I can't remember the exact line, but Judas goes back to he realizes, he's like, I've messed this up. Yeah. And he goes back to religious leaders and he says, I'm giving this money back. And they essentially say this to him. And this is such a cold-hearted, what does that have to do with us?
And then they throw it right back.
And they throw it right back in his face. And he realized, I think he feels at that point, I'm trapped. I've got nowhere to go. And so he does himself in. And then, like I said, we got Peter, who I feel like Judas could have gotten back to that.
Yeah.
I mean, we look at Judas and he betrayed Jesus, but didn't Peter also sort of betray Jesus too? Like, not sort of, he did. But we see in a really great scene, especially in the book of John there, when they're on the beach and Jesus is fixing their meal for them and he restores Peter.
Yeah.
That could have been Judas.
Yeah.
And so I think that we have to be very careful, and I would just caution anybody, when you feel like you are the outcast and that God has not done things the way that you want them to be done, that's not the moment for you to just give up all hope and turn away and never feel like you're going to be able to be restored. Make it to Resurrection Sunday. Yeah. I think as well, I would say this too. I know a lot of people would not just get disenfranchised by God, but they get disenfranchised by the church.
Oh, yeah. Probably more so.
We
disenfranchised
we
by
just
the
actually
church.
talked about it this morning. Like I call it church hurt.
Yeah.
We got church hurt. Somebody, a pastor or somebody in a church or the church as a whole really upset us. Yeah. And it's unfortunate. And sometimes, honestly, it just happens unintentionally. Sometimes it happens very intentionally. And for that, those churches really just need to repent of that. But I would really encourage people this too. If you ever come across this and like, I've been disenfranchised, I've been outcast of the church, I've been hurt by the church. Don't let that be the last thing. Yeah. Don't let that be the point where you say, well, I'm turning my back completely on this and never coming back to it again. Like the church body of believers is what Christ has established and is what Christ gave his life for. It's that important. Yeah. And so we better make sure that we are actively participating and being a part of that.
Yeah.
So that's Judas. That's his story, and it's a very interesting story. And I think, yes, that what he that was wrong, really wrong, bad.
Yeah,
but he could have been restored.
Yeah,
that's the story of the gospel. Like he never got to. I don't feel like Judas ever got to live the gospel and experience the gospel, and that's so sad.
Yeah.
That is so sad. To be that close to Jesus and never really be touched by and live the gospel is a really sad commentary on a life. So, anything on Barabbas?
I was thinking about Barabbas.
Okay.
And it's just, we don't see a lot about him. And after that quick scene that we see, we don't really see anything past that. But I think it was a really quick picture to me of what the gospel is. Right,
it's
Jesus taking the place of the lowest.
Barabbas deserved to be there. That was his cross. Right. Jesus didn't need to be there. Exactly. He's so out of place, but he's in the exact right place because he took the place of Barabbas.
Yeah.
The only thing I think about the Barabbas story, there are a lot of things, obviously, but I just go all the way to the end of it, and I'm just like, what did he become? It's very possible, because I've seen this happen in people's lives, that they have an amazing act of God happen in their life, and it changes nothing about their life. I totally could have been a Barabbas. But I just kind of sometimes like to play the game in my head that like Barabbas went away that day, completely changed. I wish we had that, but we don't have anything in Scripture. We don't have anything in tradition and history and church tradition that would tell us that Barabbas did that. But
just kind of slipped into the background. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe someday we get to heaven and we're like, oh man, that's him.
Is that Barabbas?
I don't know. I'm just total speculation.
Yeah.
That's all I really think about Barabbas. Like I said, there's a lot in that story, but we kind of have to move on here. We've got a whole other, and we can't do this with every.
We do a whole rap series over these.
On just each character, we could. It'd be really fun to do that. But let's talk about what I called the surprises of the Easter story. Nicodemus, Joseph of Arimathea, women at the tomb. I think Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus can really be lumped together. And I only say that because they were cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, very same story.
They were both a part of the Sanhedrin, which I guess I really had never, I probably had, but just had never really paid much attention to that.
Yeah.
They were on the highest ruling court.
The one that tried and...
They were the ones who convicted Jesus and killed Jesus. And here we've got two guys that come from that ruling body, that power, that elitism, who are closet followers of Jesus.
Yeah.
And one of the things I took away from both of these guys, and particularly Nicodemus, his story is found in John 3. He comes to Jesus under the cover of night in secret. But still, don't be mistaken, that was a huge risk that he took, even at night. And I think a lot of people are prone to say, well, that coward. Why would you have to come under the cover of night? Let me put you in that situation and see what you do. Yeah. And here's the thing. I think we always feel like that everybody who has faith has to have really bold, brave faith. I think like a Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Like, that's to me bold, brave faith. Like, I'm not standing down,
Right.
but I'm standing up here. Guess what? Not all of us are Dietrich Bonhoeffer.
Yeah.
I was reading another story. I believe the guy's name was Brother Andrew, and he was around during the time of the Berlin Wall, Cold War, all that stuff, and he would smuggle Bibles into, I think it was East Germany. I really don't know how everything went, but regardless, he was sneaking it into enemy territory, and it was a no-no. I mean, got caught. And I read a story and what he would do every time before he would cross over into the other territories. He would just say a short prayer and would say, God, I'm carrying your word into enemy territory. Please allow them to just look right over it and not see it. And he did. I mean, he smuggled I don't know if it was tens of thousands, if not millions of copies of God's word into a place that was very dark, very oppressed, seemingly no presence of Christ. And here's this guy.
Which, that's not a lack of boldness in my...
It's not. That's super boldness, but I feel like it's more under the radar, like sly, shifty, crafty faith,
Shifty, crafty faith. I like that, yeah.
I'm going to do a sermon on that sometime and call it that. Shifty, crafty faith. You got to be very careful about that, though.
Yes, you do.
There's a lot of things
There's
that
a lot
go wrong.
of weird places.
There's a lot that could go wrong in there. But anyways, my point is I feel like we need both things.
Right.
Both and. Not all of us are Dietrich Bonhoeffers. And at the same time, not all of us are Brother Andrews, where we're like just... I definitely think that I'm probably a lot more Brother Andrew than I am Dietrich Bonhoeffer. But I think we should still pray in our lives, though, like, make me more like a Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Make me more bold in my faith.
I think there's times in our life, and just like in Nicodemus's life, where, you do have to have that
boldness.
Yeah. And because, when he stepped up and helped bury Jesus' body, that was out in the open.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that here in just a minute.
But
you can't.
In that first part where he's still searching it out, and he's still, you can tell he's not quite there yet.
Yeah,
I would say you can see him kind of.
I would say this way: you can. I don't know if you could ever be fully Dietrich Bonhoeffer faith or fully Brother Andrew faith.
Yeah,
you gotta have a good mix of both, because I think you eat with, like, your Dietrich Bonhoeffer, you wear yourself out and you wear others out. Yeah. But he's a unique individual in church history. I think he was very full on aggressive all the time, but those people are few and far between, and I just don't feel like we are. It does a great service to the church and the people in their faith to be like, you need to be like that. Well, you take some.
The story of Saint Nicholas that would punch people in the face if they were. That was
Valentine.
Valentine, yeah.
Yeah, he punched people in the face. That's pretty bold. Faith. Yeah, by the way. Again, my point is just this. I think we have to have a good mix of both things. Yeah. We have to have good bold faith and good secret, crafty, sly faith too, under the radar. And the thing about it is, with Nicodemus and with Joseph of Arimathea, this is the way I said it, is in Jesus' darkest moment, guess who was there? Those two guys.
Yeah.
Along with the ladies that we're going to talk about off of that, the 5 women at the cross and at the tomb, most importantly, is they were there in Jesus' worst moment. And we'll step away after this from Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus. Could you imagine? Like, I don't want to be super gross and everything, but could you imagine pulling Jesus' body off that cross? That wasn't glamorous.
No,
that was just all that was love. Their love given to their Savior and trying to give him in death what he never received in life. Right. But again, talking about these women, we don't have time to talk about all 5 of them. Joanna, the wife of Chuza, who was an administrator in Herod's government. Mary Magdalene. Mary, the mother of Jesus. And there is another woman that's the other Mary that honestly, and very interesting, I never really had studied these ladies much, but they believe her to be, not her, the last woman, Salome, is the other name's given, is the mother of James and John, the sons of thunder, who says, can my sons have a place next to it's just very interesting to me.
This is kind of related, but not kind of not.
But kind of not.
We watched the Sight and Sound Theater production of Jesus. It's a musical.
Okay.
Fantastic musical. If you get into musicals, really well done, and it shows the ladies together and the mom of the Sons of Thunder, and
I can't ever imagine.
It's really cool.
I can't ever imagine that moment. I think these are, to me, the most forgotten and overlooked and surprised characters in the entire Easter story.
Yeah.
just by the sheer fact that maybe not so much today in 2021, but back in first century Jewish culture in Israel, women were
not
even thought of.
Dismissed. Yeah.
In fact, when Mary comes to tell the disciples that Jesus is risen, do you know what they do to her? You remember?
They go to look for themselves.
They're like, They say they don't believe.
Yeah.
But there's no mistaking, and there's no coincidence that the first people to hear about Jesus raising from the dead and coming out of that tomb, women.
Yeah.
Mary herself. Many people actually believe too, and I don't want to tread on oh, you're a heretic. Mary Magdalene may have been one of Jesus' most important disciples and followers. Some people even believe that she was entrusted with a high level of leadership and authority in that gang. Don't know, can't speak and say to that, but I think she was a very close follower of Jesus and had, and now I'm not going to go to the level with some people Jesus and Mary Magdalene had a secret relationship going. No,
they were just speculate that, but
they were together for 3 years. I'm pretty sure that all the people who follow him around had some sort of a very close bond and tie. But I believe there's something more to Mary than just a woman who was, when she came to Jesus, demon possessed. I believe she was a very important cog in the wheel. She was a very important evangelist and witness to Jesus' resurrection. And it's like I said, just fascinating.
Not to mention throughout his ministry of the things that he had done for her,
Yeah.
And what a voice she had.
She demonstrated a lot of love and faith and followership when everybody else deserted him.
Yeah.
And this is what's interesting to me about Mary Magdalene. The other woman I talked about was Joanna, the wife of Chuza, who was the Chuza was, like I said, an administrator in Herod's government, very high official. There was something about her that she had some sort of physical ailment that could not be cured by all the best care in that administration. And I mean, she was in the upper echelons of society.
Right. She had access.
She had access. And not until she comes face to face with Jesus is she healed and taken care of. I mean, it completely changed her.
Yeah.
And she followed him. I believe she was a massive monetary supporter of Jesus and the rest of the disciples because she had access to that. But we look at Joanna especially, and we look at Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus, and we're like, these people don't belong in the story. Because usually in Jesus' story is all about kind of the forgotten ones
underdogs,
of society.
Yeah.
These guys aren't. They're sitting on the Sanhedrin. They're high up in Herod's court. But I think it just speaks to the fact it doesn't matter where you are in society, where you come from, if you're rich or you're poor or whatever you are. If you want to follow Jesus with all your heart, come on in.
Yeah.
And all of that darkness of the Sanhedrin and Herod's government, there's just these tiny little rays of light. And I think it's so neat. It's not just about first century Jerusalem. I think the same thing is happening in our day. It's like we're like, Jesus could never be there. In the White House.
Yeah.
There are godly people there.
Yeah.
There are believers there who are doing amazing work, and the light of Jesus is shining in those places. And guess what? It doesn't matter if it's White House, if it's whatever it is, places that were like that. There's no way. Jesus is in control.
Yeah. Yeah.
God's in control of all of it. And he's saying, and that's to me really the takeaway of the resurrection story is, you think you've got a hold on me? You think you've got me down?
Yeah. It almost peels back the layer of, we think we've got everything under control, and it just kind of peels back the curtain.
Yeah. And I think as well, too, the whole gospel story is one that's shrouded in so much mystery and so much in secrecy. I think at the resurrection, it's almost like the peeling back of a can, and it's like, holy moly, there it is. That's him. That's what he's been this entire time. And I've heard it said this way: the amazing thing sometimes is not Jesus' miracles and his dazzling things he does and the resurrection. It's a fact that for 3 years and even beyond that, for 30 plus years on that, he veiled that and hid that glory. And that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
That's fascinating to me. So there you go. Easter story in a shell. In a candy shell? Like those little mini robin eggs I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, those are pretty good.
Those are
good.
Yeah. I don't know. Some people don't like those, by the way, either. But
yeah, they don't like the malted.
Yeah, it's just
like
chalky, kind of like,
I like it.
I like it.
Yeah.
Anyways. regardless, we're not here to talk about candy. We are here to talk about Jesus,
right.
and that Jesus has risen. You celebrate that. One of the things that we said at the very end is, guess what? That's not the end of the story. It's
right.
only the
Just
beginning.
the beginning.
We now have the distinct privilege and honor and expectation to go and tell people about this. So we hope that that's, hearing that story all over again, the Easter story is an encouragement to you, and that as off of that, what you do is you go tell others the news that Jesus has risen. He has changed your life, and he can change anybody's life. Even those who seem the furthest away are perfect candidates for Jesus' power and transformation to come into their life.
Amen.
So. Well, guys, until we get together again next time for episode 49, which, just a little plug here.
We're barreling closer to 50.
To 50. We're going to have some information in the next couple weeks. Well, actually, probably next
days,
week. Next few days. Just keep looking, and definitely next episode about what's going on with episode 50, the live wrap episode, where you can ask us questions at that time. Start getting them ready, start getting them going until we see you next.
50 is the golden anniversary, right?
Oh, I think so. I think.
Okay, all right.
Is that? Yeah, I think it is 50. Okay, it's like 75 is like platinum, titanium. I don't know. I don't really know what all that stuff is. Anyways, we've talked enough.
Yeah.
We'll let you go. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
See you guys.